Ugh. Good morning, everyone. Good to see that winter break is over and, huh? Why am I in Egypt? Oh, about that, Gonzalez. I should have known you were behind this. Explain yourself. Well, during our hibernation, it seems a few pikes found our hiding place. Fortunately, I woke up in time and got us out of there. Unfortunately, they shot down our ship over the Sahara, and we crash landed outside of Cairo. I have been trying to repair the ship to get us home since. Lovely. And how did they find us here on Earth? Believe me, you do not want to know how far the Pike Syndicate reaches. Anyway, I should be able to at least get us on the ship in a few. Why not pass the time with the video? Alright, I will, and seeing where we are, I think I know just what it's gonna be about. Hey everyone, it's the Koopa Man. So remember last year when I started Koopa's favorite things and we discussed my favorite Marvel antihero? Well, now it's time for DC to get its turn. I've always been far more of a fan of Detective Comics. Superheroes should be figures bigger than life that we can inspire towards. And one of, if not my favorite all-time heroes, either one or two from DC. Hal Jordan the Green Lantern, or Billy Batson Captain Marvel. Don't you mean Shazam? Don't you have a ship to fix? Hint taken. Of course, neither of those characters would fit with the anti-hero mold. Not many at DC do, really, because the morality of heroes and villains at DC is far more black and white and fixed than it is at Marvel, leading to far less gun-toting mercenary badasses like Cable, Deadpool, or Wolverine, or monster heroes like Venom or the Hulk. Still, that isn't to say there's none. Booster Gold is an example of a classical anti-hero. Not because he's cruel or hard or quick to kill, but because he doesn't suit the classical mold of a hero, being a bit selfish, vainglorious, and narcissistic. There's also a couple of monster heroes like Swamp Thing or Frankenstein and the Creature Commandos. Even Batman suits the role for being a figure who inspires fear, albeit he sort of fails because he also inspires hope, and is one of the Trinity holding the DC world aloft. But I digress. There are a notable few standout characters whose morality are more gray than normal in the DC universe, who do fit the more modern definition. Examples being Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke the Terminator, or Lobo, aka the Main Man. But none fit this example better than the man who wasn't even supposed to appear more than once. I of course am referring to Teth-Adam, otherwise known as the Mighty Black Adam. So for a bit of context, Black Adam was a character from Fawcett Comics' premier title, Captain Marvel, Wiz Comics. That's right, Captain Marvel had the name Marvel before Marvel even called themselves that, but we will get to that someday if I ever do one of these for the Captain. Created by Bill Parker and C.C. Beck, Captain Marvel first premiered in Wiz Comics #2 as Fawcett's premier superhero to cash in on the success of Batman, Superman, and Captain America. Not to say that Fawcett was out of the industry before then, but most of their works before Captain Marvel were pulp noir stories such as Spy Smasher or Dan Dare. Yeah, they went from pulp to cape. Huh, anyone else hear autistic screeching coming from the direction of Arizona? Anyway, Captain Marvel was the story of Billy Batson, an orphan radio intern and part-time DJ who is chosen by the wizard Shazam to be Earth's greatest champion. As such, he is given superpowers: the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. With these powers combined, he is Captain Marvel, complete with an idealized adult body and powers quite similar to the Man of Steel. So much so, it created a small fan rivalry between the two fandoms, with Superman fans accusing Captain Marvel of being a ripoff, which to be fair, he kind of was. But is Superman not a ripoff of Hercules and Moses? Anyway, in his comic, Captain Marvel came toe-to-toe with several nasty foes such as Dr. Sylvana, who you may remember from the recent movie, Mastermind, an evil alien caterpillar who you may also remember from the post-credit stinger, Captain Nazi, who was basically Captain America's evil counterpart in a completely different comic, and, in a one-off, the Wizard's former champion. In Marvel Family #1, published in December of 1945, We are introduced to Black Adam as he lands in Fawcett City and assaults a police officer. Fortunately, Captain Marvel and his sidekick, Captain Marvel Jr., are there to save the poor officer of the law, but are surprised when they see the man with a similar uniform to them, but also with the exact same powers and was seemingly immune to their attacks. They make a tactical retreat and return to their hideout to summon the ghost of the wizard Shazam, who tells the Marvel family who Black Adam is. 5,000 years ago, in ancient Egypt, the wizard chose a man by the name of Teth-Adam to be his champion. With the power of Shazam, he became Mighty Adam, but quickly became corrupted by the near limitless power and overthrew his pharaoh and plotted to conquer the world. Fearful and remorseful for his grave error, the wizard banished Adam to the edge of the universe. Unfortunately, Adam was still as powerful and immortal as he ever was. Also unfortunately, he also knows where the wizard's cave is and snatches the two heroes before they can transform. It's up to Mary Marvel and Uncle Marvel now to save the boys, and they all battle with Adam, until Captain Marvel, with the wisdom of Solomon, tricks Adam into invoking the name Shazam, which transforms him back and rapidly ages him until he turns to dust. And that was the first and only appearance he ever had in Fawcett Comics. If any of this seems familiar to those familiar with the DC Showcases shorts, it should, as this was the story that was adapted into Superman Shazam: The Return of Black Adam. To save from going over this short later, this was a spectacular short that displays the differences between Captain Marvel and Superman quite well, without sacrificing either character. However, it used the pre-crisis Fawcett interpretation of Black Adam, which, for a short made and released in 2010, was bizarre to say the least. Still, it was a nice little throwback for those familiar with the deeper pre-crisis lore, so I let it slide. It would not be until DC would purchase Fawcett and their titles that he'd be revived sometime in the 1970s when Captain Marvel was integrated into the DC universe and the continuity was soft rebooted. Albeit this was more of a continuation of the Fawcett continuity, I count it in the same way that certain comics were soft rebooted post-Infinite Crisis. That is to say, rubber band continuity is in effect. In Adam's first post-DC appearance, he's revived from the dead by Dr. Sivana, who you may remember I said was the villain of the Captain Marvel movie. No, not that one, the good one. Unfortunately for him, Black Adam takes orders from no man, and he destroys the machine that revived him and flies off to fight Captain Marvel on his own. The fight actually takes place in Boston, both in the present, when the comic is written, and in the distant past of 1773. Silver Age comics, everyone. This stuff happened on the regular. Anyway, it ends with Adam once again being tricked into his mortal form by Uncle Dudley, and the good captain giving him the Lois Lane at the end of Superman 2 treatment, only with his fist instead of with his tongue. So yeah, that's the last we'll ever see of the mighty Black Adam. Well, no, he did appear a couple more times, but it's hard to find scans or synopses of the Silver Age appearances. Except for Crisis on Infinite Earths, where he'd basically be a background character. And afterward, he, like everyone else, would be given a new beginning. Enter the post-Crisis Black Adam.
This is where the fun begins.
After the event comic Crisis on Infinite Earths, the entire DC universe got its slate wiped clean, including the Captain Marvel mythos. As such, it takes some time before Black Adam would get back onto a high priority, still being a second-rung villain on a B-lister's lineup. It would not be until 1994, 8 years after the reboot, where he'd be introduced in The Power of Shazam. To spare you all from issue-by-issue recaps, as it's difficult to pin down DC as opposed to Marvel, I'll recap with a general synopsis, and outline the titles where he is relevant. In the post-crisis retelling of Black Adam, the wizard Shazam, an aged advisor to Pharaoh Ramses II, actually named Jebediah of Canaan, sought to pass his powers to a worthy champion. He chose Ramses' own son, Teth-Adam of Kahndaq, to combat his rebellious daughter who made a pact with the devil. Teth-Adam drew his powers from the gods of Egypt and was bestowed with the stamina of Shu, the swiftness of Heru, the strength of Aman, the wisdom of Zehuti, the power of Atan, and the courage of Mahen. Unlike in the previous continuity, Adam was actually rather heroic for a long while, for many hundreds of years in fact. He even had a wife and a son. Unfortunately, one day his beloved kingdom of Kahndaq would be destroyed by the priest Ankh-Tan. or as we know him, Metamorpho, who would also kill his family. This would shake Adam's moral core immensely and cause him to retake his kingdom and rule it with an iron fist in a belief that it's necessary to protect his people from great evils like Ankh-Tun, an event very similar to Injustice where Superman would form the regime after Joker nukes Metropolis, or in Justice League where Superman of the Justice Lord's universe would decide to take over the world after Lex Luthor executes the Flash and proceeds to start World War III. This disappointed the Wizard immensely, believing Adam to fallen in the same way as his daughter Blaze, which to be fair he kind of did, but I'd say it's a little more complicated than that. So he would cast a spell with the remains of his magic to seal the now dubbed Black Adam away for countless millennia more. These events were retold in Justice Society of America, Secret Files and Origins. Crestfallen, the Wizard would self-exile and not appoint a new champion for many, many centuries to come. Which brings us to the present day. Savannah Corporation is sponsoring the dig of the tomb of Ramesses II. Among the team is C.C. Batson and his wife Marilyn, as well as an agent of the company, Teth-Adam. When the team discovered the treasure of a scarab, Teth-Adam, seemingly under company orders, killed the entire team, including both Batsons. The Batsons, however, left behind two children, twins, a boy and a girl. Billy, who'd be adopted by his uncle and then screwed out of his trust fund, having to live with a lovable but sour big-hearted tramp by the name of Dudley to avoid living on the streets, and Mary, who was adopted by a friend of the family, the Bromfields. The Wizard decided he could no longer be neutral and would empower these children, first Billy, then Mary, to be his new champions. Little did he know that Blaze predicted all of this. Firstly, Teth-Adam was no mere company agent. He was working for Blaze the entire time. And secondly, she'd manipulated events around the lives of Billy and Mary to screw with them just to get back at her father. And to top things off, Teth-Adam was given the powers of Black Adam upon seeing Billy Batson transform into Captain Marvel. Coupled with the fact that Captain Nazi was already battling the Marvel family, now with Freddie Freeman, Captain Marvel Jr., it turns into a 3-on-3 brawl between the Marvels and the forces of Blaze, with Teth-Adam easily manhandling Captain Marvel, and the 7 enemies of men being freed from their prison and the Wizard being put in dangerous peril. It wouldn't be till the next issue where we find out why Teth-Adam was working with Blaze. You see, Blaze has the soul of his sister, Sarah, as leverage, so the even more evil Black Adam wasn't quite. Don't you love nuance? Theo would continue to be a mere pawn of Blaze as he'd be the main antagonist of the ongoing run, appearing a few times to battle the Marvels before he was muted by Billy Batson to prevent him from transforming, which Blaze would restore, but also trigger some within him that allow him to rebel against Blaze, and as a result, he'd be banished to deep space. The series would transition from having Blaze as the main villain to the new villains of Mastermind and Dr. Savannah, the son of the man who funded the Batson's expedition, by the way, so as such, Teth-Adam was never seen again. Black Adam, however, would reappear later in Justice Society of America, having escaped his banishment and now wishing to be a member of the JSA. This would come as quite a shock for most people at the time. A character who appeared before not only as a villain but a minion for an analog for the devil, as a member of the Justice Society, it is understandable that the person he asked, Sandman, said no. No, not that Sandman. No, not that one either. That isn't even a comic book character. Yep, that's the one. Huh, kinda looks like Tracer Creek, come to think of it.
Did you really think I was the only one, Koopa? How do you think I can be everywhere at once?
My own personal paranoia fuel aside, there's a good reason why he believed he'd be suited. Teth-Adam had ceased to be. Presumably his soul was taken away by the vindictive Blaze, leaving the body free to be inhabited by the original Black Adam, Teth-Adam, who in his day was even as brutal as he was, and even in his original fall was still very much a hero. And this was understood by the man who wrote this volume of the Justice Society. The one, the only, the immortal, the man, the myth, the legend, Jeff motherfucking Johns! True to form, the writing of Jeff Johns shows in its very first appearance, in which Adam debates the responsibility of if someone under my control can ethically be called a murderer. He also hints that from a previous issue, he knows that the Flash, Jay Garrick, will return safely as in said previous issue he traveled back to ancient Egypt. a time where Black Adam was still in his youth. It was a good thing, too, as he was there to witness the first Thanagarian come to Earth to set up the origins of Hawkgirl, who is currently going through her own arc after having recently Doctor Who'd after attempting suicide, as well as set up the return of Hawkman. Adam would provide his power and muscle to assist the JSA through these crises, and for that reason he's allowed to join their ranks, proving to be loyal when he faked a defection to get into the Injustice Society, only for it to be a feint and he betrays them so the JSA wins in the end. That isn't to say it was necessarily a smooth alliance, it was in fact rather rocky, with the other members being resistant to Adam's more brutal and archaic ways. This would come to a head when the JSA allowed the terrorist Cobra, no, not him, yeah, that's the one, to live and then take over his homeland of Kahndaq. This would motivate him and a few others to quit the team and form their own, Black Reign, and he would reconquer his homeland and rule as a superpowered dictator, much akin to Doctor Doom or Namor. To secure his reign, he would align himself with Lex Luthor's secret society, but only out of convenience for his country. He provided the secret society no real major boons. Of course, things would soon change for him forever in the pages of the magnum opus of a miniseries, 52. For a bit of context, 52 takes place during the one-year time skip following the events of Infinite Crisis, where due to events starting in just before, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman all had to take a one-year hiatus. The title of 52 describes a period of roughly 52 weeks in a year, as well as a deliberate reference to the 52 DC universes that make up its multiverse, as their re-emergence and continued existence was a plot point for the event. I won't be going over the full event itself, just Black Adam's storyline, but I very highly recommend seeking it out and reading it. It is 10 out of 10 top-notch stuff. Following the events of Infinite Crisis, where it turns out Lex Luthor's secret society was being manipulated by an alternate universe counterpart of his, Black Adam is left alone to rule over his kingdom of Kahndaq. Feeling that he failed his people with his association with Luthor, he promises the people that he will do better to be a champion of justice when an Islamic radical threatens to suicide bomb his people in the name of Allah. He responds to this by disarming the man, literally, and demanding to know who sent him. Okay, maybe not quite what Superman would have done, but can you honestly say it's illogical in a post-9/11 world? A couple weeks later, presumably after rooting out the terrorist sect with his own hands, Black Adam is in his presidential office when representatives of the Darkseid affiliated group, Intergang, present him with the most beautiful virgin in all of Egypt as an offering to allow them to use his country for their criminal activities. Black Adam responds to this savagery by murdering them both. This angers one of their leaders, Terror Man, but in a short matter of a couple of days, Adam disposes of him too, ripping his body apart over the Kahndaq embassy in NYC. His next move is to form an alliance with literally anyone he could. Unfortunately, this means the Red Chinese, which puts him at odds with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. No, not that Jon Stewart, he'd be in favor of the Red Chinese. Yes, him. Some time passes, and it turns out that Adam had been keeping the Virgin, Adriana Tomez, for her own protection, knowing that Intergang still operates in Kahndaq, in places he cannot fully root them out of. However, she tries to escape. Adam explains that she's not a prisoner, and she stands up to him, telling him that the path he treads is sure to lead to failure. This stirs some deep inside of Adam. Sort of like an argument between Beast and Belle and Beauty and the Beast.
Here now. Oh, don't do that. Just hold still.
That hurts!
If you'd hold still, it wouldn't hurt as much.
Well, if you hadn't have run away, this wouldn't have happened.
If you hadn't frightened me, I wouldn't have run away.
Well, you shouldn't have been in the West Wing!
Well, you should learn to control your temper. Now hold still. This might sting a little. By the way, thank you for saving my life.
You're welcome.
After some time passes, it seems that Adriana has become somewhat of an advisor to Adam. Under her wisdom, he reroutes a river to a needy village in desperate need of water. She seems to have been working for him for a few weeks too, as Adam's favorability ratings have gone up. Grateful, Adam takes Adriana down to the Rock of Eternity, where Captain Marvel, now the new Wizard Shazam, waits for them to ask the mightiest mortal to bestow some of his power into her. He agrees, and he bestows upon her the power of Isis, the goddess of magic. With this newfound power, Intergang are no longer a threat to her, and they resolve to find her long-lost brother. Sometime later, they fight and break up a child slave human trafficking ring in Southeast Asia, presumably one with ties to Intergang. They believe Adriana, now Isis's brother, is among one of these. Isis's new influence over Adam tames him from a bloodthirsty anti-hero he once was before, though I wouldn't fault him for murdering child slavers. Time passes, and while they have not found her brother, Aman, their actions don't go unnoticed, and it turns out the free children had planted a beautiful garden for Isis in gratitude for their savior. It is in this garden where Adam proposes to Isis to become his betrothed. The day of the wedding arrives, and the Marvel family are honored guests, with Captain Marvel himself officiating the ceremony and Mary Marvel serving as the maid of honor. Unfortunately, Intergang were going to use this public event to attempt to murder the ruler of Kahndaq, but Question and Renee Montoya, who were fortunately there, stopped the terror plot. There was some hesitancy, but Isis insisted. Adam was a changed man, and we all saw his nobler side. This is truly the peak of Teth-Adam. Question and Renee Montoya are awarded the highest honor in all of Kahndaq, the Order of the Crescent, their equivalent to our Presidential Medal of Honor, for their role in stopping the attack on the royal wedding. However, Renee would rather sleep around with women than be at the ceremony, and it takes Isis to prevent Adam from killing her for disrespecting him, his country, and his people, and their laws so flagrantly. Yeah, ancient Egypt weren't so keen on carpet-munching kneelers. However, he was not so unreasonable that he couldn't see they all had a mutual enemy, Intergang. They resolved to hunt down the group however they could. It takes a couple of weeks, but they eventually do find where Intergang are keeping Aman, in Yemen, and they find out they've been ritually beating him to the point where he's crippled and very nearly dead. As a mirror to what Captain Marvel did when he found Freddie Freeman lame after an attack by Captain Nazi, Black Adam bestows a portion of his power to Aman, granting him the title of Osiris. The three then depart for China to meet with the Great Ten, a team of CCP-backed superheroes whose leader is not too keen on Adam's change of heart. Let that speak to the character of the Red Chinese. Sometime later, the Black Marvel family aided Captain Marvel Jr. and Mary Marvel in battling a demon in Boston. It really felt like old times for Teth-Adam. They then give the Question and Renee Montoya a lift to Nanda Parbat before saying farewell, and make their way to be dinner guests for the Sylvana family, presumably to be asked to track down the ex-husband of Venus Sylvana, who had recently escaped prison. During the meal, the house is attacked by what is presumed to be one of the man's failed experiments, a crocodile man. Osiris, however, felt pity for the creature, and adopts it as his pet, giving him the name Sobek. Oh dear. But before getting into that, the Black Marvel family are, sometime later, trying to restore the public's trust in them, and they revert into mortal form in New York City to show the people that they are just like them, humans. This does help build trust in the new heroic family for a lot of people. Amanda the Wall Waller, Deep State operative and leader of Task Force X, isn't one of them. She sends Task Force X, otherwise known as the Suicide Squad, on the group. This leads to Osiris accidentally killing one of their members, Persuader, in defense of his sister, and this leads him to become basically catatonic for a couple of weeks, worrying the entire family, even Sobek. When Isis goes to the garden to check on him, a loud thunderclap occurs, and all the flowers start to wilt. It takes a couple of weeks to notice that the wilt is not occurring just in the garden, but all over Kahndaq. The blight cannot be ignored by Osiris, and he takes Sobek to the Rock of Eternity to try to find out the cause. The Marvel family, however, have trouble trusting his intentions, as the killing of Persuader was doctored by Waller to smear him as no different from Black Adam. It causes a rift in the Black Marvel family, but no answer is found. Sometime later, it turns out Osiris may have figured something out. The blight is actually magically sourced. Curse. Sobek suggests speaking a magic word, and Osiris speaks the only magic word he knows, Black Adam, which reverts him to Aman. Sobek, however, uses this opportunity to devour Aman, ripping his crippled body in half. So you may have guessed, Sobek is no ordinary lizard man. He is, in actuality, Ur the Unknown, the Horseman of the Famine, 4 beings being used as weapons by Intergang. Black Adam feels the power return to him, and he rushes back to the palace with Isis, but it's already too late. The two do battle with Yurd and the other horsemen, Zorm, Raga, and Azraeus. The battle is fierce and they nearly overwhelm Adam when Isis uses a geyser of lava to defeat the lot at the cost of her own life, as she succumbs to the plague due to the strain on her body from performing the feat. All the things Teth-Adam ever loved, the catalyst for his change to be a better man, all of that was taken from him. Something snaps inside of him, and he attempts to finish the fight with the Horseman of Death, but the rider of the Pale Horse escapes. A funeral is held for Osiris and Isis, during which Adam reveals that he traced the Horseman back to the Iranian-backed nation-state of Balia, where Intergang seems to be operating. He makes his way there and does battle with the Intergang members, soldiers, and anyone who gets between him and Azraeus. When the Horseman does appear, he uses all his power to destroy the Pale Rider once and for all, leaving many countless lives as collateral in his wake of doing so. He then tracks down Intergang to an affiliated base on Oolong Island and makes his way there, destroying everything in his way. He is, however, trapped by Savannah and T.L. Morrow and incapacitated, and they proceed to torture him just as the Justice Society began to tally up the result of his rampage on Bialia and estimate over 2 million dead. Weeks pass, and Chang Su, the head of Oolong Island, announces the Suicide Squad had captured Black Adam and he would be auctioning him off to the highest bidder. The JSA try to reason with Su, but it's to no avail. They then try to raid on his base to rescue their former comrade. It is Atom Smasher, one of Adam's friends, and one of the members who join him in his group Black Rain, who rescues him and confronts him on why he killed so many people. His only reply is this: "They wanted the war, and I am going to give it to them," before flying off. The Marvel family do their best to try and stop him, but it's already too late. Black Adam cannot be reasoned with. It takes many teams of heroes to try to stop Adam, but none of them are able to keep him down. He is hell-bent on destroying those who took everything from him. Damn all who stood in his way. He even kills a few heroes in the rampage, including members of the CCP-backed group Great 10. This will lead to an event called World War III, where he wages a war against all who wronged him and nearly causes nuclear Armageddon. The battles last for about a week, leading to the death of Terra, a member of the Titans. Different Terra than the one you're thinking of, I assure you, and he eventually is defeated. But he escapes justice and goes into hiding. He then spends the rest of his time on the run during the post-crisis timeline, grieving and going through all 5 stages. He even begins to regret all the harm he's done on his rampage, and in the end, he's unable to reclaim what he had lost, getting so close and reviving Isis finally, after attempting a few times and being betrayed by those who aided him, but they are both turned to stone and remain so to this day, as the post-crisis universe was reset after the events of Flashpoint, and the New 52 takes place in a completely separate multiverse, with no idea if we'll ever come back to the post-crisis timeline. And that's that. No, I won't be covering the New 52 stuff. It's supposed to be about things I love, not things I loathe entirely. Though, what I have heard is that of this version of Black Adam, in a run written by the phenomenal Christopher Priest, he's killed Darkseid. So have fun with that one, Power Scalers. Bet you totally believe he'd lose to Apocalypse Now, huh, Boomstick and Wiz? Not limited to the comics, Black Adam also appeared in cartoons and video games such as DCU Online, Injustice, and others, and even had a solo feature in a movie recently, which I'll probably review sometime later in the year when it's safer to show clips and stills. For now, you can see the greatness of this character, what he could have been, and what he had taken from him so tragically. Black Adam is and remains one of DC's greatest anti-heroes and redemption stories, as well as one of their greatest tragedies, and he will be remembered in our hearts and in our minds. This has been the Koopa Man. Game on. I better go check if Gonzalez has his ship fixed yet.